Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to your Investment Dominator live Q&A call. I'm Warren Davis, and I'll be facilitating the call this afternoon, and we just wanted to make sure before we get started that we do a quick sound check, make sure that everyone can hear me and that you see my screen. You should see my Investment Dominator screen showing right now. If you are seeing that, hopefully you can give me a little response if you can see and you can hear me okay. Audio and visual are good. Sounds like. Thank you, Rhonda. Appreciate that. Okay, very good. We're going to move on again. I'm Warren Davis, and I'll be facilitating the call today, and hopefully I've had a chance to meet some of you, at least over the airways here. And we just want to welcome you to this afternoon's call, where we'll be able to handle hopefully all of your questions on the Investment Dominator and what a powerful CRM that we're using. And just so that you make sure, just so you can send in your questions, or if you want to raise your hand, there is a little hand icon there that you can use to raise your hand and get my attention. I will do my best to see you and to get all your questions. Questions have already started rolling in, which is great. And if you type your questions in, obviously a lot of you already know how to use this interactive tool here. You can type in your questions and they will get to me, and I will do my best to answer the ones that are coming in today. We want to kind of get started as quickly as possible today. I just have a kind of a public service announcement to make before we get started. This call today is going to run just a few minutes shorter. Mainly, we had a scheduling conflict with meetings today. So I will be starting a 1 p.m. meeting, basically 1 o'clock Pacific time, right after this call is completed. This is a very important call, so of course we didn't want to, we want to give you all the time we can. We have another important call starting, so we'll be finishing up this one just a few minutes early. And appreciate those of you that are in the room right now. We should have some more joining us. There's quite a few of you already in the room. Want to let you know that we are going to be discussing most of the issues that as they come up around the Investment Dominator. Again, as I forestated last week, if we have any Investment Dominator redesign questions or system error message questions, if I can't reproduce them on this call, I'll be forwarding those to our Investment Dominator guru, Alex. So it'd probably be best if you put in a trouble ticket for that, and we'll be looking at exactly how to do that. But again, if you have any design, redesign questions, I forestated on the last call that want to make sure we get those questions addressed. And here is just real quick, we'll go into that particular aspect. Just so you know, you can always hit help here on your Investment Dominator screen and suggest a feature. And it'll bring up this box here where you can suggest a feature. We definitely want to have your input on, you know, how we can make the Investment Dominator a more powerful CRM. I really know this is a very powerful CRM. It helps you organize your business so well, and as well as keep track of all of your customers, your buyers, etc. But anyway, you be able to enter your suggestion and select your option. Tell us how important that feature is to you, and we will definitely take that to heart and look to maybe implement a change in the future. But we want to make sure that you know how to access that for any suggestions. I want to make sure I haven't left anything out here before we get started with the questions. Questions have already rolled in. We have, we're going to start with a question that first question came from Eileen on a previous session that we had. She's making reference to the Investment Dominator and her question had to do with a name showing on her offer on her offer letter. Excuse me, not a name, but it was actually a URL. The site URL appears on, and she said her offer letter. And how can that be set up correctly in Investment Dominator? And just wanted to clarify something here. There are no the site URLs do not show up on your offer letter, and that's okay. If we had that slight confusion. My first few several months in the business, I was having trouble keeping track of the neutral letter from the offer letter, and still getting in that world and understanding that. So that's understandable. We just want to make sure that it's clear for you. Okay, so what Eileen was actually referring to was the buying site here, which you'll see that there is an actual domain, your buying site domain. Now this is where people will come to that so that you can buy land from them. Okay, so they have property that they want to sell, and this is the site they will come to, and this is the actual URL actually that is going to appear not on your offer letter, but it appears on your neutral letter. That's the letter that goes out to prospective individuals that may want to sell you their property. And so this site URL will actually end up showing. I just want to make sure everyone's clear on this one, so that we don't have any confusion. Okay, to make that clear, I just want to show you what it looks like on your neutral letters. So if we were in here and we go into prospect and we say, okay, let me go back real quick and select my record. And here I want to generate my documents. Okay, so when I select my neutral letter here, you'll see a document that comes up. As it opens up, this is the place that you will see the URL, or that particular URL, show up. In this particular site, it was www.sweetland for you. This is the only place, this is the document that will show up on. So that's your neutral letter that's going out to prospective individuals that may want to sell you their property. And so we want to just make sure that everyone's clear on that. If we were going to look at a record, an offer letter, first of all, it would have to be in pending preliminary research, remember? Pending preliminary research, and we'll look at this one here. We'll select here and generate our documents. And the offer letter, which is here, would end up being produced and going out to individuals that you're going to actually make an offer to. But as you can see, there are no URLs on this particular document. So we're just going to make sure you had clarity there, that this has to do with your neutral letters, not your offer letters. Okay, so that's hopefully that's clear, and that does answer that question for Eileen. And one of the first questions that came in from Ron, he says, when I input a caller name, it changes the owner name to the caller name. And I have noticed that does exactly that. You are correct. And Ron may be talking about, let's see, we just edit a record here. And I believe that is correct the way it works. If you put in, he inputs the caller name, sometimes it automatically will put that in the owner's name. And so I know there's been situations where I've actually wanted, there's a different person that calls in, different from the owner. This is something I just want to point out, that you want to make sure you clarify when you go into the county and you find out who the actual owner on record is, this is a very important field to have filled in. You actually want to make sure from the county now that you come in and update this owner, the first owner, and if there is a second owner on the county site, want to make sure you put that in the second owner's, first and second owner's name. Usually it may be the person's spouse, but a lot of times it's not the person's spouse. So want to make sure that you get those two straight, and that you actually fill in this information. That's going to be very important when you get ready to do your closings and you want the right individuals on your warranty deeds. So keep that in mind. Then we have a question that came in from Sandra. She said, if I imported a list without the new fields, do I need to re-enter the old data with the new fields? And just want to clarify something else again here. The new fields that Sandra is talking about has to do with the new Investment Dominator. We had some fields added to fields that the Investment Dominator can now process. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to search my user guide here, and I'm just going to type in how to import your list. And this is going to give us a quick article, how to import your list for house or how to import your list for land. And this will tell us the fields that Investment Dominator requires. And I know we've seen this a few times. Some of you have seen this a few times, but it bears repeating. These names here in red or in the colors are required fields. So it's very important that they are always in Investment Dominator and that they actually are called first name, last name, so that Investment Dominator can recognize when you import your list of records, land records, Investment Dominator will recognize your fields that you want processed. So some of the new fields, like I think one of the new fields with the second owner's last name now can be imported as well. So to answer Sandra's question, no, you don't need to re-import. So if she imported a list of records, let's say 2 weeks ago, before we might have been processing the second owner's last name, she's asking, do I need to go back now and re-import, re-enter those old data because, with the new fields? And not at all. The way Investment Dominator is very intuitive, very powerful CRM. The way it works is it will determine which fields you're importing, and as long as you have second owner's first name, second owner's last name within your list of data, the Investment Dominator will then process that data. So let's say 2 weeks ago you didn't have these fields in your list of fields that you imported. No big deal. Investment Dominator processed whatever you sent in. If you just had first name, last name, and company, Investment Dominator has already dealt with those records. They have been sent out. It's just going forward now, there are some extra fields that you can include in your import so that you have additional data in your land records. So hope that answers Sandra's question on if we have to re-import a previous import so that you get all of the fields updated, and you do not. Make sure you take advantage of your user guide and look up the information you're looking for. You do a search on it because there's a ton of information in your user guide. Let's see. Looking for some more questions here. Oh, okay. Thanks at that time. So we have a question about moving pictures around. Okay, moving pictures around, coming from Paul. And the question says, after uploading pictures, is there a way to move them around besides using the up one down arrows. I want to move picture 10 places at a time. Well, Paul, I would take it one, you can move them one at a time. I was looking, let's say I would have to go in and actually upload some pictures. We'll see if we can get that done for you so that we can answer that question, because that's a powerful part of the Investment Dominator. That I'm going to look for one of my records here that are in pending preliminary research. Okay, and I kind of like the way the pictures are now being organized. So one of the first things you do once you edit your record, you come in, and this kind of gives you a little lesson on how to load pictures for those of you that may struggle with that, but you want to locate the file. And let's look at images. Let's say I want to put in this image. So I clicked on the image, I start my upload, and it brings it right into the Investment Dominator. We'll locate another one, double click, bring it right into, start your upload, bring it right into Investment Dominator. And we'll do a third one here just so we can get a good picture. Starting the upload. Okay, so as you can see, just so that you know, pictures that are coming in, you want to always make sure you have one that are featured. And just for additional information, your featured picture is the one that's going to actually appear on your listing, and the rest of the pictures you want to make sure that they're they're public. All right. So can you the question is, can you move them around so that make sure after loading the pictures, is there a way to move them around besides using the one up and one down arrows? I want to move picture 10 places at a time. I actually will have to look into that more, Paul, but I believe right now, you can move pictures around. This particular, let's see, edit. That's not really letting me move here. Let me actually look into that, Paul, and get you another answer, or get you a good answer on that. Just want to make sure folks knew how to actually get the pictures into Investment Dominator, and I think it's pretty cool the way it allows. I'm going to put this in. Let's go see here. Update my record. Okay. So there we go. We have up, move down. There you go. Let's see. So you can move up one, move down. You have 10 pictures in at a time. I think the best way is to continue to use your move up and move down so that you can put them in the position that you want them to be in. And again, remember that you want to determine which picture is going to be featured, and after that, the other pictures must be made public. So I'm hoping that answers, or at least begins to address your question and shows some other folks how you can use the Investment Dominator to move your pictures around. They must be in complete ready to sell mode though, like you're getting ready to actually market this property for you to be able to do that. I'm going to put this one back in pending preliminary research and move on to another question that we have here from Gidget. Gidget asks, can we show her which tabs This is 20. Show Gidget which tabs Pat Live uses and what information they collect. Pat Live is our, just want you to know, for those of you that don't know, Pat Live is the call center that we use that answers our callers of our neutral letters that go out weekly. So the Pat Live rep can log into our actual system and locate the caller's record, and they will actually put in certain information for us. And just so you know, in order to see who our Pat Live rep is, I just went up, I hit My Team. So it shows me the Pat Live representative here. And this is their particular ID, Pat Live Rep 01. So I'm gonna log out there. I'm gonna log in as a Pat Live rep so I can show you exactly what Pat Live show exactly what a Pat Live rep will see when they sign into your system. So you create an ID for them, they'll come in, and obviously they're looking at any records that are in the prospect status. When they go in here and edit one of these records now, so what happens is they'll, based on your neutral letter that just went out, Pat Live will get, it'll have an 800 number on there. Pat Live will get a caller that will call in and say, hey, I think I might be interested in getting an offer on my property. So the Pat Live representative will log in, they'll come in and they'll make sure, hopefully, that the owner's first and last name is correct. And if there's a second owner, they will usually put that in. But I just want you to know, sometimes this is something you want to make sure you check with the county to make sure that there's an actual second owner on record. Sometimes they get that information correct, and a lot of times, we have to update this information with the correct second owner. Most of the time, they don't have knowledge of who that there's an actual second owner, or they just didn't give it to Pat Live. So Pat Live doesn't know that there's an actual second owner. So I just want to forewarn you, you always want to check this with the county. So then they can come in now, and hopefully they'll get an email address from the person who called. A lot of times they don't get an email address. So you have to, you may have to update that later. Most of the time, they do have a phone number, which is good. They usually get a phone number for you, very seldom a secondary phone number. But you always want to check this address information as well when you look at the county record. Once this person says, hey, I want an offer on my property. So Pat Live can come in here now. They usually put in the address information, and 9 times out of 10 they get it, they get it right the first time. What type of property? This is land, and the APN number. Now this is another important piece of information that you always want to verify. Even though Pat Live puts an APN number in here, there are many times that I'll go back and I'll check in the county, and this number is incorrect. So they might leave a digit off, or they might add a digit, but I usually have to update that. So I want to make sure that check that with the county, and they'll give you the county that it's in. They don't have any access to the legal description because they're not looking at the county. You get that from your county records. Your property address, they normally won't know this either. So this information is usually not there, and that's something I usually have to update. The property city, sometimes they get that correct from the owner, but majority of the time I have to put in the correct property city and what state is it in, Florida. But basically, just want you to know that Pat Live has access to all of this information, and very seldom, unfortunately, do they get the acreage correct. A lot of times I see numbers like 3,500, well, of course it'd be nice to have 3,500 acres, but that's usually not correct. So you have to check this and make sure you update this information with that you get from the county. Again, they won't know anything about the property dimensions. They won't know anything about, normally they won't get the annual base taxes. Sometimes customers know, and they'll give that information to PatLive, but the majority of the time we have to get that from the county ourselves. And of course, some customers do know if they have back taxes owed, but as you can see, PatLive has all of this information. Now, when it comes to the county assessed value or the market value, I can't tell you how many times I'll get, an answer like, it's worth, 35,000. I'll see 35,000. When I check it with the county, it's more like 8,000. Okay, so my point here is don't depend on PatLive or the information they may get from the owner. You need to go check this out, this assessed value and the market value with the county yourself, and you update these records accordingly once they put this record in your system. So again, there are times when they know if there's any power lines, but as you can see, the PatLive rep has access to change all of this information. And we set them up. When you set them up as a representative to come into your system, they have access to all of this type of information that they can just only update. We don't give them ability to delete any records or delete any of your data. Just give them permission to enter the data. Another important piece of information, if there's a seller agent, they will usually update this, and the owner usually insists that they update this because the owner is going through an actual agent. So this information is usually entered, and PatLive would be the one to enter it. The rest of the information is for an administrative purposes only. So as you can see, this is for your admin. They might put something in, but this information is usually entered by the admin, so PatLive stays away from that. They don't usually add notes, but the one piece of information, I think I had a question following this question is from Eric on, well, how do we see the PatLive comments in the Investment Dominator? Good question. PatLive comments are normally the caller's comments. So this field here that you see is usually the caller's comments, and it's usually something like, owner would like a call, before receiving an offer, something like that. But you'll see these in the caller's comments, and that's where PatLive has recorded these comments. And the last thing that PatLive does is they'll come up here and they'll put this in for us. They'll put this in pending preliminary research, and then they will update the record. That's very helpful. They're an extremely helpful group, and I encourage you, if you really want to maximize your time, definitely use PatLive as to receive all of your calls from your prospects. Okay. So another question that came in. The neutral letter, let's see. We could look at a question that came in. Okay, this will be kind of an interesting demonstration for you. I think this will be good information for everyone. And this is about tags. We got a question from one individual, Joan, regarding how, first of all, how to create a tag, but then I think the main question that we even got a question from Jamel regarding tags. How can I add tags to records I've already imported? And I want to take time and answer this one because I think this is a question we've had a couple of times. How do you add tags to records that you've already imported. And I'm sure a lot of folks already know from social media what tags are, but just so you don't, I'm going to have to log out here and log back in. Okay, so that we can actually look at our land deals that we have already set up. Okay, so first of all, the tag, just so is a keyword or term that's usually assigned to a piece of information. So it's a tag is assigned to a piece of information like an internet bookmark or a digital image, some maybe even a database record. And for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to look at this as a database, a series of database records that we're going to tag. So this tag is going to help describe the records that we're going to go after, and allows it to be found easily by browsing or searching. So we're going to show you how you can tag certain records and have them, from your import, and you can search for these records and you can retrieve them easily. So let's just say, for an example, first of all, if you want to create a tag, we have up here along this line, we have to create a tag from scratch here. We want to go into customize and tags. Here we go. Now one's already been created, but if I want to add a new tag, I just hit tag, and I'm just going to have to name the tag. I'll just name it tag test 02. All right. And you simply add your tag. Okay. So as you can see, I have two tags here that are in my system currently, and it's just that easy to add a tag. Now, what are we going to do with those tags? We're going to use one of those tags. We're going to assign them to search for records. In my particular demo system, I've only got about 18 or 20 records. But if you can imagine, when you import records, you could have 500 or 600 records that you're importing. And let's say that we want to group these records together. First, the records with a phone number, and we're wanting any records that have a phone number and that are looking for an offer. So that would be any records that have a phone number and are in pending preliminary research. Those are the ones that are looking for offers. So if I wanted to find these records, now I could go in here and I could just select records like here. I could do this. For right now, for my demonstration here, I've only got 4 records I'm selecting. But what if I had imported 200 or 300 records? It's not really efficient use of time to have to go and select each record one by one, right? So we want to create a tag or a way to extract those records. Now, there's 2 ways we could do that. One is we could search you can search by phone, but that only gives me, I have to have a specific phone number. So at this point, I'm really going to give you a little demonstration on the difference between a regular search or a advanced search. And I think this is going to help a lot of folks in knowing the difference and being able to put in an advanced search. With this search capability, I can really just get one piece of data at a time, and I can search for. I can search by status, expired offer, etc. First name, last name. But like I say, this is really when you want to find individual records. What I really need to do, in order to find the records I'm looking for, I need to do an advanced search. And this is a pretty cool tool, the way it's been set up in Investment Dominator. When I'm doing an advanced search, the difference between an advanced search and a regular search is an advanced search, you can search by multiple search criteria. If I had just looked at the search, I can search by one criteria. With an advanced search, I'm now going to be able to search by multiple criteria. So the first one I said, okay, I want to find anyone with a phone number. So the primary phone number is equal to, but I want to say is not empty. That means there's an actual phone number in that field. It's not an empty field. Okay, so that's the first part. And the next thing I want to do is I want to do multiple search criteria. So I want to add a rule here. And I remember I said that we want to look for any records that are in pending preliminary research status. So that I'm going to go in here now and I'm going to put in status is equal to pending preliminary research. So you see how you can have multiple search criteria. And okay, so we're in here. Something I should have shown you at first, so I'm going to get back out. Okay, I have 4 records in pending preliminary research. Just so you know, I'm telling the truth here. They're pending preliminary, but you see this one does not have a phone number, okay? So there's one that does not have a phone number. My second one also does not have a primary phone number. So based on my criteria right away, these 2 records will not be selected. Here's the third record. Okay, you can see this one has a phone number. And finally, my fourth one also should have a phone number. So based on my criteria, I should be able to select at least 2 records. So I'm going to go back in, do my advanced search. I'm going to say I want to search on the phone number. And I'm going to say it's not empty. Then I'm going to add a rule. And I'm going to say I want to look at my status now. And I want to make sure my status is equal to pending preliminary research, correct? Is what I stated. So now I have the ability, I can either save my search if I want to, or I can just go ahead and execute my search. And as you can see, it brings me back 2 records. And these 2 records now are based on the search criteria that I've already executed. So these are going to be in what I call the Investment Dominator search buffer. Now, if you can imagine, if I found all of my records, pending preliminary research, there might be 100 records, or it could be 50 records. Well, I'd have to page through all of these records and select them all, because now I want to tag them. There's a cool feature, all you do is select all, and your select all will select all the records based on your last search criteria that you executed, okay? So, so based on this search criteria now, I now have my records that I want to tag. And I simply go over here now and I hit tag. And remember, we already set up a tag. So I have 2 tags set up. I simply select the tag that I want. And by the way, you can select, multiple tags if you want to put on a particular criteria, and you just confirm that tag. And so now you have a tag set up where you can go out and select records that have a phone number, pending preliminary research, and anytime you need to execute that to acquire or to get data to pull those records, that is the best way to tag records that you've already imported. Okay, now this is this has covered a couple things for us here: how to do an advanced search and the difference between an advanced search and a regular search. So I hope that helps answer that question for Jamel. Good question. Okay, let's see, we have some questions still rolling in here, and our time is kind of going by quickly. Um, ah, so, okay, a follow-up question from our discussion before. Let's see. So what I like to keep the caller name in my records without having the owner's name changed to the caller name. Can that be done? Yes, Ron, that can be done. You simply, if you want the caller's name to remain, you simply change the owner's name. Like I say, a lot of times we have to go out, we have to go to the county, and we actually pull and verify the owner's name. A lot of times the owner is the one that calls, so that's kind of why I think it was set up like that, because a lot of times the owners are the ones that call. But occasionally we've had situations where the owner, the actual owner of the property, the owner on record with the county, has passed away. So the maybe the owner's wife or husband or the owner's son or daughter is calling, but the land still remains in the deceased person's name. So in that sense, we have to change, or we just update the owner's name, and it can be, and then it's in Investment Dominator correctly. You have the caller and you have the owner at the same time. Okay, very good. I'm so thankful you all ask a lot of these questions, because it clears up a lot of issues for many people. We had a question from Stephen, who asked, is there a way to create a folder to segment addresses that had no response to mail again in a year? He says he needs a segment so that he can identify an area to remail rather than this huge mailing list. So I understand the question, Steve. If I understand the question correctly, it's a matter of records that you've been importing. Lots of records imported over the course of a year, and you want to make sure that you can keep track of these records so you can mail out maybe second, try them again in about a year to see if they're interested in selling you their property. Well, I'm gonna tell you, the greatest thing about Investment Dominator, we've been in business for a while now, and we've got thousands and thousands of records in our account with individuals that we've already mailed before. Now, keep in mind that once you mail them a letter, the status gets changed as long as you're responsible each time you do your import. See, every time we do an import, when we're finished, if I go into the generate documents, once I send out our neutral letters to our customers, and that import is done, I have to make sure I go over here and bulk update my records so that Investment Dominator knows to move this from all of these customers now from prospect to mailed letter one status. That's something that you have to be responsible for each week. So once you do that and you've moved them, Investment Dominator will move them to mailed letter one status. You don't have to worry about putting these in a folder anywhere or keeping track of them. Investment Dominator does that for you. And as a matter of fact, just to give you an idea of what that looks like, I'm going to show you even, let's see. Oh, let's end that tour. Okay. Just so you can see how this looks. In a year or so, or however long, it's a long period of time, all I have to do is go over here and I hit my prospects, and it's going to take a while. Take just a real quick moment here, and Investment Dominator is going to keep track for me of all of those individuals that are in mailed letter 1 status. This is the cool thing about it. I go to the very end of my list, and as you can see, all of my mailed letter 1, these are people that we first mailed when we came into the business, and I can go back at any point and see all of the mailed letter 1 individuals. This is a really cool thing about this CRM. It keeps track of all of these individuals for you, and all I have to do, I get ready to select one, I'll select a few here, and all I do is change their status back to prospect. Remember, you can come up here, you can just do change status, and Investment Dominator is intuitive enough to know, okay, you want to move these back to prospect. So any records now I move back to prospect, when I get ready to send, I can send them a neutral letter all over again saying, hey, we want to buy your property. So I hope that answers your question, Stephen. You don't have to worry about keeping track. I mean, I tell you, this system does it all for you. You don't have to worry about keeping track of your letters that you've already mailed out a year ago. Investment Dominator takes care of that for you. So I really have time for, I tell you, this time has gone by so fast. Thank you all for asking all these questions. Let's see here. What we have time for is maybe 1 or 2 more questions. And those questions, I just want you to know, any questions that you're sending in right now, if I can't get them on all of you today, because there's many of you in the room and there's just one of me. If I can't get them answered today, I promise you, just like all these other questions, we will get them answered and we'll answer them on the next call. So you can always, remember these calls are recorded, so you can always log in to your Investment Dominator and look up the calls, the training calls, and you can go back and list whatever question you want. You can go right to that spot, because I will have a timestamp on there, how many minutes into the call, and you can look up your question, okay? So our last question we're going to be able to answer here, and I'm going to have to get on, I'm going to have to wind it down here, is Monserio has a question. Can new templates be created for the design of the face of the website so that they don't all look the same? And I totally got that question. Basically wants to redesign the look of his website. So if I were to go in and look up real quick, record, that's in ready to sell, edit that record. So this is a particular record for that's ready to go on to my website. I'm going to generate the listing. Here comes my website. So Monserio wants to redesign the look of this particular website, and so that it doesn't look like somebody else's. Totally got that. And what we're going to encourage you to do is to look at your help guide, because Alex has, foreseeing this one, and has put out there a video. And all you want to do is search for how to customize the look of your built-in websites. Okay, search for this on your user guide, and here it is, how to customize the look of your built-in. Now, the reason I can't take the time right now, other than the fact that I'm running short of time, but one of the reasons why we can't take the time right now is because there are videos associated with this. This is quite an extensive process for you to do. You can do it. It's not difficult for you to do, but it would take too much time on our call for showing you exactly how to customize or change the templates on your website. But you can go in here and Alex has put together a video, quite an extensive video, that show you step by step on how you can actually change and customize your website. Now, there's going to be two ways you can do it. You can use your built-ins, which are your areas. I'll just show you real quick. Some of your built-in areas. Let's see, on your buyer or your selling site. So your built-ins would be, you could change this banner page. These are built-in. You can change and your banner logo, if you will. You can change any of these information. You can change colors here of your background. It allows you a lot of flexibility. And this particular video that Alex has put out will actually show you how you can use, you can do your built-ins and you can customize your website. You can change some of the aspects of your website. But if you want to manage or move some of your data around, move some of the way your header appears or your footer appears, you can also do that. Now that gets into a little bit more customization of your website, but you'll notice that when you can change the data that may appear, the numbers that are on here right now, or any of the labels or any of this banner, you can actually update. But it's quite an extensive process. Now, if you actually want to go even further, this is a real great video because it shows you how you can employ what we call a CSS coder. CSS standing for Cascading Style Sheets Coder, and that's basically a fancy term for a web designer, a web programmer that you could employ. You can go and look for one of these on either Upwork.com, so it's www.upwork.com or Spiver.com, and the CSS coder will contact you, and you can tell them how you want to change your website. It's quite a process. Just to give you an idea, if I were to go in here and I left-clicked on this particular banner, most of the websites will have something called an inspect or inspector, you'll see. But just to let you know, this is the kind of information a CSS coder can deal with. I myself, I've been in IT a long time, but I'm not I'm not a CSS coder. So you need somebody that can actually handle this. We would encourage you to employ a CSS coder if you actually want to change your site, because if you go in changing and altering some of your site on your own, that it could result in your site not working properly. So want to keep that in mind. Just go on and listen to this video, and it will tell you how you can change or modify your site for yourself and to your liking, or how you can employ a CSS coder to help you and make your site look very unique and different. Okay? So, my friends, I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. I really have enjoyed, I always enjoy spending this time and being able to answer your questions. I thank you for sending in your questions. Thank you all for being courageous people and for stepping out and into the land business. These questions that you've sent in, I promise you I will get them answered, and we will have them, we'll look for them on Monday's call. We have these calls twice a week, Thursdays, 12 noon Pacific time, and Monday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Just want to leave this thought with you before we go. From Zig Ziglar, one of his famous quotes: "You don't need to be great to get started, but you definitely must get started to be great." All right? Remember that. You don't need to be great to get started, but you definitely must get started to be great. I want you all to have a great weekend, great remainder of the day, and thank you again for being with us. We look forward to sharing with you again on Monday's call. Take care, everyone.